Okay, hi guys. So yin and yang. So I'm going to explain yin and yang, and then I'm going to use this painting as an example of how it shows up in my work, and hopefully that's useful to someone out there. So yin and yang are concepts from Taoism. It's a truly beautiful thing to understand, and hopefully by the end of this video, you'll see why. But to start out, one of the beautiful things about yin and yang is that it encompasses all things, and it can be anything and everything. And the reason yin and yang can be anything or everything is because it asks us to understand the relation of two parts of a whole. And anything can be that whole. And the way it breaks down is that yin is typically seen as all the things that already exist, that are natural, that are the natural flow of things, things that do not require effort, things that are intrinsic, given, unspoken, unstated. And so yin is typically associated with things like darkness or shadows, softness. On the other hand, yang is things that require effort, that require work, that are disruptive, that are created. And yang is typically associated with things like heat and light and hardness or loudness, things that are stated. Yeah. And so basically what we have is that yin is one thing and yang is whatever yin is not, and yin is whatever yang is not. And so when you really boil things down, what you can kind of frame it as is yin and yang is what is not and what is, from both ways. For instance, when you look at the yin and yang symbol, the circle that's got the swerve, one side is black, one side is white, and then you have on the white side a black circle and on the black side a white circle. It's kind of showing you that yin and yang complement each other to form a whole. But at the same time, within yin, there's a bit of yang, and within yang, there's a bit of yin. So it's not so much like a complete separation, but a complementary relationship. And so what I love about yin and yang is that it kind of forces you into a state of acceptance of things. It's never about, oh, this is yin, this is yang, so one is bad, one is good, or one is good, one is bad. And you can't ever understand yin and yang and then draw an overarching statement about a situation or something that's happening or whatever you're looking at. So it kind of forces you to accept things existing simultaneously within a larger thing. And so some examples are yin is often associated with the natural world, right? And so if yin is nature, undisturbed earth and land and environment, then yang would be buildings, whatever is man-made on the earth. So yin is earth and nature, yang is civilization and structures, man-made things. When it comes to cooking, making food, yin is steaming food and yang would be sauteing food. So you have vegetables. A yin approach would be, putting in some water, covering it, letting the steam do its thing, being hands-off, let the water and heat cook. And then a yang approach would be sauteing, where, you constantly need to make sure that the stuff isn't sticking on the bottom too much. You're adding things, you're throwing things in. It's an active process, and you're putting in a lot of energy into heating the food through sauteing. What else? In terms of approach to a situation, yin is being hands-off and saying, I'm not going to intrude. I'm just going to let whatever naturally happens do what it's going to do. Yang would be, I want a specific outcome and I want to create order, or I want to create a plan, stick to that plan and make something happen. That's yang. Actually, when I was traveling, that is a way that I thought about things when it came to having a balanced approach to traveling. So for a day, I wouldn't want to be either too yin or too yang, right? Because if I'm too yin, if I really am just like, I'm just gonna let whatever happens happen, that might leave me in a place of maybe I wouldn't have transportation, or maybe I'd be stuck with bad weather. Like if I'm not even checking what the weather is, and like I wouldn't be prepared for that. Things might happen that might have financial repercussions that I can't take on. So, you know, I didn't want to be too yin, right? But I also didn't want to be too yang, because I did not want to travel in a way where I had to stick to such a rigid schedule, because then where's the whimsy in that, right? Like what I did want was a balanced approach where I'm going to set myself up with just enough planning for my own well-being and safety. And then the rest, I would allow whatever happened to happen. And so that's something where, for me at least, because I've thought about yin and yang so much and it's just become incorporated into how I see everything, I don't think I was even thinking, oh, today I want to be balanced between yin and yang. I just was doing what felt right, and what felt right to me was a balance. And so another example of yin and yang is that the way I approach yin and yang in life, in the way that it's so incorporated into just my natural state of being, that's very yin, right? But to create this video and to have to search through my brain for what is actually going on there and breaking things down to try to explain it and share it with other people, that's yang. So yeah, I could go on and on with these examples because really it can be seen in everything. You can look at a paintbrush. Let's try with a brush. If you want to just look at the physical form, you could say the yin is the dark parts, the shadows, the yang is what's in the light. Or if I'm looking at it from this angle, the yang is what I can see, the yin is the part I can't see. Like you could say the yang of the moon is the part we see, the yin is the dark side that we don't see. But you could also say the yang is the whole brush. If the yang is the whole brush in a physical form, this brush, then the yin is all the things that are not physically perceivable about the brush, but exist about the brush. So the manufacturing, like wherever this was made, like whatever this is wood, wherever this wood came from, the brush's story, whatever happened to the brush before I bought it and brought it to my studio, that's all yin. That's all yin. Like the stuff that we don't see, but that is true, that exists, but we don't see it in the physical form, if that makes sense. So you can really use yin and yang with anything. I find it really enlightening. I find that it has brought a lot of peace to my life because, like I said, it pulls you into a state of acceptance. Instead of trying to determine what this thing is 100%, you think about, okay, what is one part of this thing? What is the yin of this thing? What is the yang of this thing? And let me first accept those parts. And then you can decide, to be more yin. Like some days when I was traveling, I was like, today I want to let a lot more happen and not be planned at all. Or some days, like when I was traveling to a specific destination and I knew I only had 2 days there, that's when I'd be more yang and I'd be like a little more active and I'd be like, okay, well, I want to make the most of my time in this place. So I'm going to do a little more itinerary, a little more planning for specific results. So the first step though is acceptance of the parts of a whole and the way that there is always multiple sides to something. And so now to my painting. I'm talking about this painting because another yin and yang. Yin is me leaving this painting in my studio, just wasting away in the corner. Yang is me incorporating this painting into this video because I want to give it some love and attention because I think she deserves some love and attention. She's my child. All of my paintings are my children. Just like children, there are never any favorites, but I'm very proud of this one. So anyways, so this painting, this was one of the times where I was intentionally using the painting as a metaphor for something that I was realizing through yin and yang. And so this scene is from Jaipur. I was in India about a decade ago doing a language program. And when I was reflecting on my time in India, through the lens of yin and yang, I was understanding how at that point in my life, I kind of had a very passive approach to all things, right? Basically, I was so focused on adapting to my environment and kind of minimizing myself for good reason, right? Again, when you're traveling, when you're living in a country that isn't your own, that's a different culture, it is sound and good to understand that you are someone coming from the outside. So you do want to let your environment kind of dictate things and not try to insert yourself too much. But yin and yang is about balance, right? Too much of that is also not good, because what happened was I did have a really amazing experience in India, but there were just so many opportunities, I think, that I was surrounded by and presented with that I didn't take because I was a bit too timid, a bit too yin. I wasn't really balanced in terms of yin yang energy. And so I made this painting to kind of capture that reflection. And so this is a scene from the rooftop of my host family's apartment building. I had taken a picture. And in that situation, the scene is yin because it's something that I just happened upon. It was already there. I just happened to see it as it was. And then the yang would be taking the picture of the scene. And so when you look at the painting, I first painted the scene. I tried to make everything as accurate as I could to the photo because I wanted to capture the scene as it was. And then the yang was coming back in with these abstract strokes. This stuff wasn't there when I took the picture. It wasn't there in the moment, but it's something that I was inserting into the visuals to disrupt it. And it was a bit of a destructive process because I had already painted the scene and then I was going over. So there's stuff under these strokes, right, that is now no longer visible. So that would be yang. And that is if you're looking at what's within this space of the painting. The scene is yin, the strokes is yang. But if you want to change your frame of reference to my process as the artist as I was creating this painting, actually the scene, when I was really trying to make the painting look like a picture, that was actually very exerting for me. That was challenging. It was kind of exhausting. It was difficult. That to me felt like a yang process because I was basically trying to make something look like something else. But then on the other hand, the calligraphy strokes, or these abstract strokes, which come from my calligraphy practice, I took some Chinese calligraphy classes just here and there in Chinese school one summer when I visited China as a kid. And in the classes, what we would do is practice these strokes over and over and over and over on a piece of paper, try to get it in our system, basically. And I really enjoyed that as, you know, a neurodivergent kid who most probably definitely had OCD. Like, I really enjoyed making the stroke, seeing what was wrong, making the next one, making it better, working at it in repetitive motions. I was locked in and I really enjoyed that. And so years later, when I was in one of my art phases, I discovered that these types of Chinese calligraphy strokes came so naturally to me when it came to just, if I wanted to make a paint stroke, that's kind of just what came out. I like the idea of abstracting them because there was an aesthetic that was intrinsic to me, that was part of my heritage, that was something I had inherited, that became programmed in me through practice and through maybe an inner knowing, I don't know. But I wanted to keep it abstract to reflect the fact that I am a diasporic Asian who is not in China. I'm not someone who was traditionally trained. There is a way to apprentice and get traditionally trained for Chinese calligraphy, and that's not what I did. And so it didn't feel authentic to try to form Chinese words. Anyways, so that was an art practice that started several years ago. That's what you see here. And so the process of putting in those strokes, it was very natural to me. It just flowed out with ease, right? And so that part of this painting process was yin. So if you're looking at the image, scene, yin, strokes, yang. But then if you're thinking about the artist process, scene, yang, strokes, yin. And so it doesn't really matter which you're defining as yin and yang. The important part is understanding that there is a relationship going on here between the realistic part and the abstract part. And there's a relationship here between what you see and what an artist is going through when they create something. Like if you're going to apply this to, you know, viewing art in general. So if you're at a gallery, you could see the work that's hanging on the wall as yang because it's there, it's physically there. And then the story behind that work, whatever the artist put into it, that's yin because you don't see it. It's not visibly perceivable besides the physical manifestation of it. So in that case, art is yang, artist process is yin. But then as a viewer, if you're looking at your experience as a viewer, glancing at a piece of art is yin. It's kind of passive. Like you can actively look at art, but you know, you're just taking in what is already there. It's already in front of you. It's presented for you. That doesn't take much effort. But then getting to know an artist's philosophy and an artist's approach and an artist's process, that requires you to maybe go talk to an artist or maybe ask about it or maybe search it up or inquire and find out what it is that the artist went through to create what it is you're seeing. And so that process of discovery and seeking and inquiry, that's yang. So do you see how the important part is understanding the relation and not necessarily locking in a definition of, oh, well, this is yang, no, this is yin, no, you know? I hope that makes sense. And here is some close-ups of this painting. My child, my beautiful child, I painted this one last year, I think late summer. Yeah, if you look at all the details, like that took so much effort and work. That is definitely yang to me. And then the yin strokes, even though they're disruptive, even though they are visibly yang and disrupting the scene, they were yin for me because they were just part of, they're just part of me. If you know anyone who has, you know, a lovely space in their home that could use some colors and a nice painting, feel free to send them this, or maybe if you don't want to make them watch the whole video, just tell them about it. Pricing is not set in stone. I have a general idea. I mean, think about it this way. This painting is like my child. So if you were to try to sell a child, you can't really put a price on that, right? But it's still a whole child. And so you raise that child and there's a lot of value in how you raise that child. And so the person who raised them, the artist who created the painting, should be compensated reasonably for something like this work. Also, I am trying to make a living. So I hesitate to put a sticker price on this beautiful girl. I think she's a girl because of the purple. I don't know. Because I like her so much. A boy painting, I guess there's not much else to say. And I hope you found the yin and yang enlightening. I hope it brings another lens to your perspective on life. And I hope someone knows someone who would like to take this painting. Please comment, please say something. I don't know, if you don't want to comment, message me, but I think it's more fun when you comment because then the people can respond to you and, you know, sounds fun. Please let me know if any of this made sense to you because the goal really is to share and bring something enlightening and interesting to you. And hopefully this was that. Yeah, cool. Okay.